Welcome to PENSARE Basketball. In our first Eastern Conference power ranking of the year, we will attempt to do 8 of these at the 1/8 mark throughout the season. Let's just see how the Toronto Raptors prosper or perhaps fall relative to their wide open Eastern Conference foes. There's been a lot made of the Eastern Conference being a battle that is wide open. And I think that everything we have seen this year with the Cavaliers stumbling out of the gate, Karl Anthony Towns looking the way that he has in New York under Mike Brown's new offense, looking a little bit confused. The Orlando Magic, a team that, frankly, a lot of people, myself included, had dominating the Eastern Conference. I thought the Orlando Magic were an easy 60-win team. I might be crazy because the Orlando Magic have not looked that way. Paolo Banchero has struggled immensely. Their offense continues to sputter despite trading away an ungodly number of first round picks for Desmond Bain. So, look, the East is wide open. And at 5 a.m. this morning, I had the bright idea maybe the Toronto Raptors should call up one of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference and maybe make a trade for Pascal Siakam and Andrew Nemhard. So let's talk about how wide open this Eastern Conference is. Salute to everybody. Mars, if you're the real Mars, everybody knows Scotty's better than Laurie and Jalen. No need for me to say more. Shout outs to you for defending Scotty Barnes on the panel today. It seemed like Jordan, Mars, Ox, and frankly, everybody who was on the panel who had some common sense about them felt that Scotty was clearly the starter in that group. But hey, man, leave it to Damo to say RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, no big deal. Jeremy Grant / Jarian Grant, who knows? I think sometimes you actually have to watch these games. You know what I mean? Like you actually have to watch Scotty Barnes and watch Jalen Johnson and watch Laurie Markkinen on a regular basis. And let's just be honest, most people are not watching full games. So we leave it to that. But let's get to the Eastern Conference rankings. If you want to have a lot of PENSARE basketball in your life, specifically me in your life, you're in for a treat. Not only is this live happening right now, we're going to have another live at 8:30 where I very critically, very harshly dissect the game of Scotty Barnes and talk about the levels that he still has to get to, right? Uh, I think that that is important to hold players accountable, to be fair as an analyst, even though he is my favorite player. I think there's probably nobody on the planet who is better equipped to dissect the shit out of Scotty's game. And I think that there's a reason why his trainer consistently says that he's got a long way to go. So there will be that. And there will also be a playback stream. So if you're interested in San Antonio Spurs, as I clearly am, we can watch the San Antonio Spurs versus the Golden State Warriors in a in-season tournament game. Wait, NBA Cup game. So that's going to be really cool. Shout outs to Big Ox Media tuning in here. Scotty playing good right now, but he not keeping this up. I see through this. He ain't better than Pippen either. Okay, well, cool. Nobody really said he was better than Scottie Pippen. I just think he's Pippen-esque, Magic-esque, LeBron-esque. Shall I say? No, let's not be crazy here. So first, let's look at the strength of schedule. I think it's important to just look through the strength of schedule here. The Phoenix Suns have the toughest strength of schedule left, and that makes sense. They've played a pretty easy schedule so far. They've racked up a bunch of wins. Jalen Johnson is, he's out for a while. Jalen Green is out for a while. He looked amazing in the game and a quarter that he played. He looked like he might have actually leveled up. I was flabbergasted watching him in that first game. But alas, they are once again unhealthy. Kaman Malawach looks every bit like a project, an 18-year-old center. And it doesn't look great for the Phoenix Suns. They will probably tumble very quickly. But that being said, the Utah Jazz have the second strongest strength schedule. If you are wondering where do the Raptors rank in terms of strength of schedule, well, they're close to the bottom. They are right there at 28. The Los Angeles Lakers are 29th, and the Chicago Bulls have the easiest strength schedule remaining. The Bulls obviously have tumbled a little bit down the standings. A lot of people were very excited about the 5-1 start, but obviously, since Josh Giddey has been hurt, they have looked horrible. So we'll get into we'll preview a little bit of the Western Conference. So to give you my rankings of who I think is the best team in the West. We're not going to talk too much about the West, but we are going to go detail by detail on the East. I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger. And I can't tell you I've watched every single game at all. In fact, I don't think I've watched 4 full Nets games. I have watched 2 Washington Wizards games. So we are going to rely a lot on the numbers to tell us what is actually happening with these teams. This is not going to be a Rob pretends that he watches 85 games a week. Okay, I'm not watching 85 games a week right now. It is way too early in the season for me to decide who is worth watching and what I'm supposed to be watching for. So usually the way I go with the NBA is for the first 20 games, I dabble. I check out a game here, a game here. Obviously, my work with Player's Choice, puts me on stage to watch certain games that maybe otherwise I wouldn't watch. I'm doing my best to watch 2 full games a day. I am not one of those people that has 7 screens open that is watching 7 games at a time. I don't believe that that is possible. I don't think that you can watch 7 games that way. I don't like consuming basketball that way. That is haphazard and completely insane. So a lot of teams I just have not watched very much of, and you're probably going to sense that from my analysis. And certain teams I have watched a lot of, and you're probably going to sense that from my analysis as well. But let's get going here. So here are the standings. The Pistons sit atop at 10-2. Up next are the Knicks, who just lost Jalen Brunson for a little bit there. The surprise, perhaps. I mean, a lot of these teams are surprising, if I'm being honest. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I can barely see it. I imagine if you're watching this on your phone, you can barely see it too. So right up top, you have the Pistons at 10-2. As I mentioned, that is surprising. If I'm being honest, that is very surprising because I had the Pistons taking a bit of a tumble after losing Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley. They have not. They have picked up right where they left off. They have been an incredible defense. Cade has been mixed. The fourth quarter scoring has been amazing. The turnovers have been down a lot since that bumpy start. I have watched a little bit of Pistons. I love what Isaiah Stewart's doing. Jalen Duren has completely leveled up as a center. He is physical and he is tough. And as much as it pains me to say, they're probably, if I was not a Raptor fan, they would be my favorite team in the Eastern Conference. They play the type of basketball that I respect very much, even though I don't love some of the heliocentrism, and I do believe that there's an upper limit to how far you can go when Cade Cunningham is your best player. I do believe that Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, Beef Stew, some of the guys that they have on the team, they have not had a fully healthy run yet. They don't have Jaden Ivey back yet. So time will tell what that does, if sometimes too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, but they have assets. They can make a move. They are totally primed to make a move for someone like an Anthony Davis or something and totally level up here. I do think Cade is legitimately a top 20 player in the league. I don't know how much further I can go than that. I really don't. But Big Ox Media saying Scotty is better than Cade. He plays both sides of the ball. Cade is a shot chucker. So while a year ago, I would 100% agree with you, I don't agree with that at all. I think Cade is a very special player. And I think that he definitely plays a lot more defense than this comment would suggest. I don't think that that's fair to just say that he is a shot chucker or something. He does take a ton of shots, as evidenced by the fact that he took 45 shots against the Wizards in that overtime winner. But I did not rip that game the way a lot of people did. A lot of people saw 45 points. And, we'll talk about that when we get to the Pistons. But this is, these are the standings right now. Right at the bottom, you have the Brooklyn Nets, the Washington Wizards, and the Indiana Pacers. They have been horrible. The Pacers just got blown out last night. I got to tell you, things don't look good for the Pistons. They just lost Aaron Nesmith. They've had Andrew Nembhard in and out of the lineup. Pascal Siakam has not been great. So we'll talk about them a little bit, but positive steps for the Charlotte Hornets, who walked into this year pretty much trading all of their centers and then got a gem of a second round pick in Ryan Kalkbrenner. And I really like what I'm seeing from their rookies. Sion James is amazing. Con Knippel has been hella efficient. There's a lot of good stuff going on in the East in terms of young players developing. The Atlanta Hawks have been a complete revelation. As watched last night's game, Jalen Johnson against the abysmal Utah Jazz. They've looked better. Yes, they do very much miss the theory of Trae Young, but the reality of Trae Young is that he wasn't locked in this year. He has been really bad and aggressively terrible for their defense. And I think that they have just enough to be a middle of the pack team right now. I don't necessarily buy their 8-5 record and their 4-game win streak. I think a lot of this will simmer down once teams figure them out a little bit. The Toronto Raptors did beat this team, but then the very next night, very undermanned, they absolutely smoked the Los Angeles Lakers. I think the Lakers are a team that is worth talking about as well, as a team that really, really struggles against athleticism, size, length. And yes, I remain committed to this idea that DeAndre Ayton sucks. Over to the Western Conference, we have the absolutely record on pace to break every record in the book. OKC Thunder. AJ Mitchell has been so special, like to watch. Yesterday, I was opining that the Raptors had 5 draft picks in the 2024 NBA draft. They were looking for two-way wings and somehow missed on AJ Mitchell 4 times. They traded away a first-round pick to the Utah Jazz, the 29th overall pick that eventually turned into Isaiah Collier that could have easily been used for a better version, a far, far better player than Ochai Agbaji in AJ Mitchell. But hey, you live, you learn. Nobody hits 100. I love Jamal Shed. I have a lot of faith in Jacoby Walter and Jonathan Mobo, and I love the fact that we did get Jameson Battling undrafted heat. But that being said, this is why the OKC Thunder have the advantage they have, because they legitimately have like 6 or 7 wings that could probably start on a lot of teams in this league. They are really deep, really good, and it is really hard to imagine that with J-Dub back, when he comes back, if he comes back, in the next couple of months, that they're not going to level up even more. And Shea has taken another step as a player. I think he's just better. I don't know if the numbers show it necessarily, but watching him, he feels a lot better. So he is incredible. Nikola Jokic is on a historic run. 20 boxes minus is ridiculous. Watching him play basketball, according to our friend Damian Peters, is a spiritual experience. According to me, it is just basketball mastery. He's incredible. So let's get past this. The Pelicans obviously have been terrible. The Mavericks cannot close out games. The Sacramento Kings are an abomination and just an abysmally talented but hapless roster. The Clippers have been soft and mentally fragile is the best way to put it. And I will remind you that the OKC Thunder have the Los Angeles Clippers first round pick this year, and very possibly the 2 teams that were in the finals last year might actually get 2 of the top 3 picks. I mentioned this earlier in the live, but at 8:30 tonight, I will be talking about Scotty Barnes and the next steps that he can take to level up as a player. His trainer is sometimes on these lives, and he'll just pop in and say 13%, 16%. So I want to talk about why that number never goes higher than 20%, because even though Scotty is one of my favorite players, the fact of the matter is that he is still relatively very unskilled compared to other guards, wings in the NBA. There's so much that he cannot do yet in terms of footwork, finishing, shot making, ball handling, post package. There's so many weaknesses in his game right now, and he succeeds despite it because he makes the right decision 95% of the time, because he is so physically imposing. And I think that's what makes the potential so ridiculous, because there are nights where you watch him and you really feel like you're watching some sort of super athletic, Nikola Jokic, who was born in Florida. It's an insane the upside is so immense with him. And I understand that sometimes we like to sell 24-year-olds short, and we act like 24-year-olds are finished products. Scotty is nowhere close to a finished product. And while a lot of players do make a couple all-star teams and just stop chasing it, I know hunger when I see it. I see it in myself. I saw it in myself when I was younger. I saw it in Shea. I saw it in Kawhi. I saw it in Luka. I see it in a lot of players. I see it in Scotty Barnes. So we'll talk about what those next steps can be and how quickly and realistically he can achieve them. To the Western Conference. Oh, wait, sorry. We got to talk about this for a second here. We are really close to our goal of 200 members. Really close. We're like 7 away. So if you have not become a member and you've been kind of dabbling, there's some perks. Our Sunday shows are available to members only. There's some custom stickers coming. I promise they are coming. I'm so sorry. They are coming your way. Main page thanks, obviously. And just, you get a member chat every single month. You get to support PENSARE Basketball. You get to support my goal of paying off my damn mortgage that has been eating away at my spirit and my soul for 16 years, which I hope to clear in the next 2 months. So consider becoming a member if you would like. Let me just move myself a little bit here. This is my Western Conference power rankings. So obviously, number 1 are the OKC Thunder. Their defenses. I still actually do believe that the Denver Nuggets will come out of the Western Conference somehow. I think they've leveled up. Their second unit is so much better. But the gap right now in terms of regular season, I have to see OKC healthy. I have to see this matchup. I don't think OKC is going to be not favored to win a game this year by Vegas unless they are on a back-to-back against Denver on the road. I've said this before. This team is approaching ridiculous levels of mastery. Um, I remember when I was very, very young, the 92 Bulls, uh, they were not favored to win that series in the finals. And they were just a team that was very hungry to prove a point. They felt like the hungrier team on most nights, which is ridiculous because they had the best player in the world in Michael Jordan, and they were so successful and so heralded and so widely celebrated and like it was such a consensus around this is the best basketball team in the world, and they still had that hunger. I see that same hunger in OKC, and I'm not making a direct one-to-one comparison between Michael Jordan and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, but I do believe the mentality is similar of, hey, we won a championship, but I didn't play my best basketball. We won a championship, but we can do better. Yeah, we won a championship, but it ain't nothing unless we got 2, 3 more on the thing. And I don't even think after 3 they're going to be satisfied. And maybe this time, number 23 doesn't retire after the first 3 and just goes off for 6 straight. Now, I don't necessarily know how OKC is going to keep that core together. I think that's a concern for everybody in Oklahoma City right now. But I sincerely believe that when I listen to Shea Gilgeous-Alexander talk about the game, when I hear him talk about what his aspirations are for this team, when I listen to, you know, Mark Dagnall, when I listen to their general manager, Sam Presti, when I listen to these people talk about it, it feels like they really feel like they have just arrived at the dance and they're not going away anytime soon. In fact, Shea said just as much. He said, we're not going anywhere. And, every year the West is going to level up. Wemby is going to grow. Jokic is going to find a new way to dominate the game. Houston will eventually get a point guard. Shout outs to Reed Shepherd, who's been sort of turning around his season. Luka will probably get a second star once LeBron retires in LA. Minnesota will continue to ascend around Anthony Edwards. Portland may parse out some of these young pieces to get a de facto star in Portland. Golden State, I don't know what's going on with Golden State. They're super old, man. They're really old team. Phoenix may, in fact, hit on Kaman Malawach, Rasheer Fleming, and just the dearth of young players on that team as Devin Booker finally gets some help and a player, a style around him. Utah may fall ass backwards into a top 3 pick this year. Who knows what else may come? But I believe the gap between OKC, just based on their youth and how good they are right now, and the rest of the West is so substantial. And if I had to do like a future power ranking, I think the number 2 team in the West for the foreseeable future will be San Antonio. Of course, Dylan Harper has been injured. The Spurs have not looked the same without him. I think at some point they probably have to move off of De'Aaron Fox. I really do. I know Fox probably hates that, but I think Harper is the point guard of the future. And, I think Fox deserves his own team. And I think at some point, trying to share ball handling duties between Fox and Dylan Harper is just going to compromise both their games. So, that's worth thinking about. In terms of, Houston, they've been surprisingly good, man. They're one of the biggest teams. They're physical. Their rebounding advantage on their opponents is so ridiculous. It is chart breaking how that team offensive rebounds, gang rebounds. Shout outs to the Lakers, number 5 here. I think they need LeBron back, man. I really do. I think LeBron settles a lot of things down for them. They got whooped, a couple times here recently, and Luka has looked a little bit shaky since coming back from his injury. So, but Luka has leveled up. He is playing better defense, but they struggle against length. They struggle against athleticism. And if you look at 2 of the top 3 teams on this list, very long, very athletic. So I don't really see a long future for, Luka and the Lakers in the playoffs, unless, of course, they make a trade deadline deal. Or maybe DeAndre Ayton is really better than I really give him credit for. Minnesota, Portland. Portland's very impressive, man. I don't want to talk too much about Minnesota because I've only watched 1 of their games. But Portland, I've watched 3 of their games, and they are just a gutsy team that is like, you don't know what you're going to get from them on a night-to-night basis. Like, they're very inconsistent, man. But they are ripe with potential. Tumani Kamara is one of my favorite wings in the league. A solid 2-way guy, just stops everybody. He's so good, man. He's such a competitive, tough wing. And Danny Avdia is like really one of my favorite players. I don't give a shit about the politics. Fuck your politics. I don't care about your politics. I love Danny. I think he is really one of the most underrated players in the league. I genuinely believe he's a top 35 player in the league. Shout outs to Jeremy Grant, playing reasonable basketball. Drew Holiday. Their big man rotation is so good. So good, right? They got 3 legitimate centers over there, and none of them are named Hanson Yang. So, shout outs to them. The Phoenix Suns have turned it around recently after a rocky start. I think Devin Booker finally has a team that's kind of coming around, playing around him. The Golden State Warriors, of course, moved above 500 after beating the San Antonio Spurs. They got a repeat of that game tonight, which we'll watch on playback. So that's cool. And then beyond those 9 teams, honestly, it falls off. As you can see, those are the winning teams in the Western Conference. Everybody else is the losing team, and you have a lot of disappointments. One team that I can't really say is a disappointment is Utah. They are not a disappointment. Ace Bailey's been shaky. It's been good one game, bad one game. Uh, Cody Williams, like the jury is out, but I have no idea what to think about that. They have a lot of young players that are succeeding in meaningful ways. I've watched 2 of their games, including the opening night blowout against the Los Angeles Clippers, whom, we were like, holy shit, they're blowing out the Clippers. And then, then you see the Clippers getting blown out by everybody. And you're like, holy shit. But nevertheless, the Utah Jazz have a bright future. Hopefully Ace Bailey works out for them, but Keontae George has looked good. To the people who wanted Keontae George in the draft for the Raptors, and I fought you on it, I might be wrong. I really might be wrong. And Bryce Sensabaugh has become a revelation for me. 11 through 15 is just the bottom of the bottom. A lot of thoughts about Dallas. Obviously, need to see them with Kyrie healthy, but Clay has looked completely washed defensively and offensively, and made his way to the bench. I think they are ripe for the picking, if I'm being honest. I think after firing Nico Harrison, this is a team that drastically needs to pick a direction, and probably that direction is to build around Cooper Flag. If I'm being honest, they should build around Cooper Flag. They should get off of Anthony Davis, let him go to a contender, let him, pick up a few first round picks, go trade Kyrie next, go trade, try to get off that Clay Thompson contract and just be bad for a couple years and, figure it out. The Pelicans are an interesting team. If I was doing a future ranking, they definitely wouldn't be this low, right? Herb Jones has been Trey Murphy has been There's not a lot to say about that team, but the 2 guys that I have been honed in on are 2 of the guys that I was relatively high on in the draft, which is Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. I think they've hit on both of these picks. I really do. I think Derek Queen is doing some very, very special stuff with the basketball. His playmaking, his flashes of processing, how easily the game comes to him, how slow everything is for him has been truly ridiculous. Like he looks amazing. He looks like a 3-4 year vet. He is still relatively young. He's 20 years old right now. He's a little bit old for a college freshman, but some of the motor concerns that I have, this is stuff that I'm going to have to see long term with him. And of course, Memphis has been an absolute train wreck with the Ja Morant situation. I caught, you know, um, I caught a little bit of Mars talking about Ja Morant and how maybe the league has passed him by. I'm not really sure about that. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'd have to study his tape a little bit more. But there's this bad thing that's happening with Ja Morant, which is the more I watch him, the less I like him. And that sucks because I used to really, really, really like Ja Morant. And now I'm like, the more I watch him, the more I see the holes, I see the defense, I see the processing issues, I see the paint finishing issues, I see the terrible shot selection. And I'm like, man, if he's doing this on purpose, that's probably not a good thing. If he's just tanking his value to get out of Memphis, that's probably not a great thing. That's probably not a very mature thing for him to do. If this is just who he is as a basketball player, I think that might even be worse because that means you have a $40 million, soon to be very, very quickly declining player. 23 minutes into this, let's get into the Eastern Conference Power Rankings. I promise we're not going to waste too much time at the very, very bottom. Shout outs to Alex Sarr and Keyshawn George. They have been pretty much the lone bright spots for the Washington Wizards. Bub Carrington has looked pretty bad from what I have seen of him. But Alex Sarr's had some big performances. You spent a second overall pick on him last year. There's a lot of players on that team that probably need to go. If I'm being honest, Chris Middleton looks like he's wasting away. CJ McCollum has looked pretty bad overall. And there's an interesting stat. The OKC Thunder are so incredible. The only team that is better than them is the team that faces the Washington Wizards. So any team that faces the Washington Wizards basically becomes the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's how bad they are as a basketball team. And it's not easy. Mars Talk Sports, if again, I caution if this is the real Mars. I don't know, man. You are a famous YouTuber. Okay, Mars. You got impersonators. So I'm gonna assume this is you. Patrick Beverly just got arrested for felony assault. Yikes. If that is in fact true, shit, that sucks. Shout outs to Jordan. That's your boy. Okay, moving on from the Washington Wizards. Not a lot to say about the Wizards, if I'm being honest. They are bad. Wait, did I just skip over some teams here? Okay. So let's get next to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets will tonight welcome back, or if like in an hour, welcome back Day'Ron Sharpe, one of my favorite young players in the league. They've been missing Cam Thomas for a little bit. I can't say they look much better or much worse without him. I really don't think he makes that much of a difference. He's a 24 per game, 24 point per game, empty calorie scorer who doesn't play a hell of a lot of defense and really does not see the game, does not process the game at all. And Michael Porter Jr., honestly, I'm not impressed. I'm not moved, man. Big Ox saying MPJ way better than Cam. Well, this season, MPJ has been better than Cam Johnson. That's because Cam Johnson is shooting terribly and has been a great shooter for most of his life. So I'm not going to buy that at all. It's a small sample. And I believe that by the end of the year, Big Ox, you will be wrong. So for now, by all means, victory lap. I'm an idiot. I wanted Cam Johnson for 2 first-round picks. I'm a moron. But for me, honestly, I think Cam Johnson's better. And I think they were a better team with Cam Johnson because MPJ doesn't play a hell of a lot of defense, if I'm being honest. He's a good rebounder, but apart from that, his hip mobility is totally gone. The back injuries really robbed us of what could have been one of the best wings in the league, man. I feel like if y'all saw MPJ in high school, you would have a very, very different expectation of MPJ, man. He's like the #1 player in high school for a reason. Moving on to the Indiana Pacers, who have just been absolutely abysmal. And I can't even say it's tanking. They just look like a totally lackluster team here. In terms of offensive rating, this once juggernaut offensive team without TJ McConnell, without Tyrese Halliburton, they are 29th out of 30th. In terms of defense, they are 23rd. In terms of net rating, they are 28th. It is a complete reversal. I don't think I've seen a team fall off this much. Obviously, a lot of things have gone wrong for that team. Okay, there's been a lot of injuries. Pascal Siakam has not looked like himself. Obviously, his role has completely shifted and changed. The spacing has changed completely without Miles Turner. So, a lot of bad stuff happening in Indiana. And now we will move to a slightly more detail-oriented perspective on the Indiana Pacers. They lost Benedict Mathurin after 2 games. Okay. And Benny the Bucket was supposed to be the breakout candidate. This was the guy who was supposed to take over the offense. I don't know if they're necessarily tanking per se. I mean, they're really bad right now. I think they're just bad. Like, I think they're just bad. I think a lot of role players that were relying on easy touches and easy buckets being, manufactured for them are having the same thing happen to them that the Raptors were having happened to them last year, which is there's nobody really to create high efficiency offense and there isn't the space to get off all those shots. So, you had a lot of guys who were super efficient this year. Pascal Siakam is back down to 52% true shooting. I mean, he was pretty much north of 60 in his entire Indiana career. And now he's back down to 52. And that matters. Andrew Nembhard has not been super efficient. Jay Huff, who I had a lot of hopes for as a big breakout candidate, has not been super efficient. He looked much better in Memphis. Let this be a nice little lesson to all of us that playing with talented players helps talented players look more talented than they really are. Jarris Walker, hey man, I can't tell you that I wasn't high on Jarris Walker. I was higher on Jarris Walker than most. I am wrong. So far, I am so wrong. It is ridiculous. I see the flashes of potential. I see the shot making. I see the big, athleticism. I see the coordination. I see all of it. But man, it has been really hard to justify how at the age of 22, he is not getting better in a meaningful and substantial way. TJ McConnell has played like 2 games so far. Again, he has not looked good. As he comes back from it, James Wiseman was waived. He started 1 game and then was waived immediately. So this just is not a good team. They are not going to turn into a good team. I don't think Tyrese Halliburton could literally help them right now. I think this is a team that is clearly primed for a rebuild. I think they need to move Pascal Siakam. Now, whether that is to a contender or whether that is, to the Washington Wizards, they do need to move off of him. And I understand that there is a bittersweetness to the fact that you go this far with a player, you lose your best player in Tyrese Halliburton, you lose your probably 4th, 5th best player in Miles Turner to free agency. You get nothing really of consequence to replace it. You don't have a blue chip prospect on the way, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know how high y'all are on Ben Mathurin. I can't say I envision like a star in him. There's a lot of players from the 2021 draft, which is the draft before Ben, that I could see making an all-star team. I could see Jalen Johnson becoming an all-star. I could see Jones Suggs, if he ever becomes healthy, making an all-star team. I could see Josh Giddey making it in a weak year. I could definitely see, obviously, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Cade Cunningham. I could maybe even make a case for maybe Jalen Green could be an all-star someday. Like, I see that level of potential. I could see Jalen Green carving out a Zach LaVine career. I don't know if I see an all-star in Ben Mathurin, but hey man, he's Canadian. He's from Montreal. I hope I'm wrong, man. I hope I'm wrong. And he was hooping for the 2 games that, he did play this year. He was efficient. He was taking the right shots. He was processing the game a little bit better. So it's tough to see them without him, because this year was going to be a very, very big, Ben Mathurin gets touches year, and they won't get that for the foreseeable future. Moving on to team number 12, and that is the Charlotte Hornets. Surprising, because I had the Hornets like bottom 2. And, at least part of that is because LaMelo Ball has played 6 games, right? Which is about half the games they've played. And he has looked really good. He's looked really good. He's playing defense a little bit better than he has in the past. That is good. We got Musa Diabate, right? We got Ryan Kalkbrenner. We got Con Knipple. We got Sion James, right? I think this is a team that is finally moving in the right direction for the first time in what feels like my lifetime. Okay, if I'm being honest, the last time they were moving in the right direction, they had Kemba Walker on that team. So this is definitely a team that I respect their process. I see where they're going. I get it. And I think that they have something here. I think there'll be a fun league pass team within a couple of years. Like, maybe if Con Knipple blows up into actually turning into Klay Thompson, they'll have more than just a league pass team. Maybe there'll be a play-in team as early as next year, and a really fun one at that. I think LaMelo is a lot, like, widely maybe too disrespected for all the things he doesn't do. He does a lot of things really well. And, again, a lot of people talk about Ja Morant being a superstar, and they don't talk about LaMelo in that same vein. They give, Trae Young a lot of respect. They don't give LaMelo that respect. I don't know what it would take for LaMelo Ball. Like, does it take, because he has made the playoffs, he has been an all-star. He was very young when he made an all-star team. I don't know what it would take for LaMelo Ball to command that kind of respect. Is it just the off-court antics? Is it the Ball, name? Is it because he is, the son of LeVar Ball that people just cannot respect him? Is it because people oversaturated their palate with him, when he was very young, and they just can't shake some of the crazy stuff that he said? I don't know. I really don't know. Is it because he takes one-legged, fadeaway threes with like 12, 14 seconds left on the clock? I guess he does need to win. I guess he does. They haven't really had Brandon Miller this year, and I think that will make a very big difference. In the 2 games that they did have him, he didn't play a lot. I think he got injured right in the start of the second game. So I'd be interested to see this team play out. Obviously, those are 2 top 5 picks in LaMelo and Brandon Miller. That's who you're building around, right? You're obviously, you also got Miles Bridges, but now you have all these great complementary role players that actually play good basketball and play the right way. Yes, LaMelo is very injury prone, and those ankles might actually be perma cooked. So, there's a reason to be dubious about the future with LaMelo Ball, but at the same time, he is your best player. Moving forward to the Boston Celtics, another team that, again, 2 years ago in the finals, right? And shoot, won a championship, and here we are, right? We've got Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a bunch of absolute question marks, right? Peyton Pritchard has not looked as good as he did last year. This year, Anthony Simons is producing around where people would expect. I like Hugo Gonzalez a lot. Every time I watch him play, I think he's great. Josh Minott was obviously one of my guys last year when he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves, buried on the bench, where I was just like, Josh Minott's great. You should look at Josh Minott. Baylor Shireman might actually work out for them. And Nemias Keita, I remember watching Nemias a lot when he was in Sacramento, because I used to cover a little bit of the Sacramento Kings with, what is the outlet? What is the outlet? What is the outlet? Leo, Basketball Zone. I used to cover a little bit of the Sacramento Kings with Basketball Zone. And, I watched a lot of Nemias Keita. I didn't really like him with Sacramento. I didn't feel like he was very skilled. He's leveled up. Xavier Tillman is another guy, you watch him with Memphis, and you get a feel that, these are the types of players that can figure it out. Chris Boucher has been pretty bad. Like, if we're being honest, his minutes are down. He's not playing regularly. There was some hope early on that he would be their starting power forward. He even got baptized this offseason. with Joe Mazzulla. We all know Joe Mazzulla is very religious. So Chris Boucher got baptized and then subsequently got iced out of the lineup. He's played a grand total of 76 minutes for this team. But again, congrats on hitting on Josh Minot. That's good. You took a chance on Luka Garza. He's been playing reasonably okay for you, but nothing to write home about, nothing spectacular. Don't let the PER or whatever the hell fool you. He is still a pylon on defense and still largely unplayable. And they are a bad basketball team. When you lose Drew Holiday, when you lose Kristaps Porzingis, Al Horford, and Jason Tatum, you really get exposed. And I think Jaylen Brown's having a really good season. Derek White, not so much. I just don't think Derek White has been impressive at all. His threes are just not going in this year. It's been really shit to see. But again, that's the gap in what Jason Tatum creates for you. Jason Tatum really leveled up as a ball handler and a decision maker and a playmaker last year. And his ability to get in the middle, force doubles, collapse the defense. I know he doesn't get the credit that Luka does. I know he doesn't get the credit that Shea does. But the next tier down is right there. He's right there. He does so many good things to bend defenses. His mind for the game has really slowed down a lot. And so for me, when people were debating Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, I was just like, it's so obvious that Jason Tatum is the best player on this team by far. He has been forever, and it's partially what they're missing so much right now is his defense. As a 6'9", legit, guard 4 positions type of defender, his defensive impact is so invaluable. If they had Jason Tatum out there just defensively, forget the offense, just defensively, they would probably be a 500 team right now. That's his impact defensively. That's what you're missing, honestly. And Josh Minot is an okay defender. Anthony Simons is a pylon. You just cannot sustain this. So you keep taking all the threes, but they're just not clean. They're not open, and they're too easy. They have knocked off some pretty good teams, so shout outs to them. I would actually argue the bottom of the East is probably performing better than the bottom of the West, but that's because the bottom of the West has to face the top of the West. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. Next up, the Atlanta Hawks. This is probably a little bit low at number 10. I probably should have put them a little bit higher, but hey, this is where we're at right now. They have Trae Young on that team. He has looked very bad so far. The Raptors faced them on opening night, blew them out, faced them again without Trae Young, almost lost that game. I think if you're a Raptor fan and you're watching this, as I suspect many of you are, not Mars and not Ox, but pretty much everybody else, you have to be happy that two of the teams that were pretty much pegged to come out, top of the East between Atlanta and also Cleveland, you have won all of your games against those teams. You've beat them twice each. Those were supposed to be hard games that you were supposed to lose. You've won them. So regardless of how you won them, regardless of who was healthy when you won them, ultimately you have won them. Now, I will mention on opening night, the Hawks were relatively healthy. On the second game, they weren't that healthy. And yet the second game was a lot closer. If you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, interestingly enough, on the first matchup, they were relatively very unhealthy. They only had Evan Mobley and a whole bunch of role players. And what happened? You almost lost the game. You needed Jameson Battle heroics. Last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers were very healthy, relatively speaking. They were missing Lonzo Ball. Obviously, they were missing Jalen Tyson. They were missing Darius Garland. And some people would have you believe that missing Lonzo Ball equals losing a game. I'm not getting into that. I understand that. I understand that Lonzo Ball would have made a huge difference last night. I understand having Darius Garland would have tipped it in their favor. When I previewed that game the night before, I'm not going to lie now, I said if they have Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, you're going to get smoked. And they didn't have Darius Garland, and it made a huge difference. To people who don't understand how good Darius Garland is, I'm frequently on the panel with Swiper, and he has been pretty much pushing, I think, all year last year that Darius Garland was, in fact, their best player. So depending on how you look at it, you could say Darius Garland was their best player, and he's missing. I don't think he's been their best player this year. I think that's clearly Donovan Mitchell. But that being said, Jalen Johnson has been a revelation. Last night, he put up an unconscionable, crazy stat line. I can't even remember it. It's that crazy. It was like 37 points, 18 rebounds, 14 assists, and 7 steals, something like that. Insane. Okay, like truly insane. He is an absolutely impressive transition athlete. They've been experimenting a lot with him as a big playmaker. I think he processes the game okay. It's not point guard level, but it is clearly competent playmaker who can make simple reads competent, and he is such a fluid transition athlete that really, on a transition team like, ironically, the Toronto Raptors, he would be great. Like, he would just get so many easy buckets. His strides, his handle is tight, not great, not dynamic, not can create in the half court off a set dribble, but again, in transition, he is a bullet train, and I'm not saying Giannis, but that type of thing. It's that type of thing. He's not as good as Giannis. He's nowhere close to Giannis as a defender. I'm not saying he's Giannis. I'm just saying for those people who don't watch Jalen Johnson very often, that's what he looked like yesterday against the Utah Jazz to some extent. So he's a very good player. He's a very good player, and they picked him up in the middle of the first round. Shout out to the 2021 draft, man. Alperen Şengün, Jalen Johnson were both picked outside the lottery in that 2021 draft. It is ridiculous how deep that draft is. So yeah, I probably should have them higher. And if they continue to play like this, once Trae Young comes back, I will move them higher. But I think teams are looking at them a little bit, maybe sleeping on them a little bit. Also, shout outs to Asa Newell. He hasn't played a ton, but in the minutes I've seen of Asa Newell, I'm also pretty impressed with Keaton Wallace. I mean, now this might have something to do with the fact that I'm friends with his trainer, but like I've been rooting for Keaton. Dyson has not looked great. In fairness, Dyson has just not looked great. He's not a point guard. I don't think he'll ever be a point guard. He is an off guard, combo guard, secondary ball handler. He's been massively over leveraged in the situation. He hasn't been nearly as dominant defensively in terms of racking up steals and stuff this year. But that being said, the Atlanta Hawks are a fun team. They play super hard. They play fast. And if you just wanted to look briefly at their statistical profile of the, for the year, they are currently 20th in offensive rating, 5th in defensive rating, and 14th in net rating. And I promise you that 5th defensive rating that is currently holding them up, that is not continuing when Trae Young comes back at all. They should trade Trae Young. I 100% agree with you. The Orlando Magic, the most disappointing team in the Eastern Conference, is that a fair statement? Like they're 18th in points per game. They're 12th in points per game allowed, opponents' points per game allowed. They have the 19th ranked offensive rating. Shout outs to them. I think it will weirdly enough get better without Paolo. I know that sounds counterintuitive, and a lot of people don't believe that, but I think Franz is going to lead better offense for them somehow. Just having one less cook in the oven. Their defense is getting better as Jalen Suggs gets healthier and healthier. Jonathan Isaac, who's one of my favorite players, looks kind of washed this year. He has not looked good. But overall, they're 6-6, and that is very disappointing, right? It is insanely disappointing. Anthony Black, shout outs to Anthony Black. I had kind of lost a little bit of hope in him, but he has been playing relatively well. Jet Howard is a player that I think a lot of us kind of sold stock on. Jace Richardson is another player. He's barely cracking the rotation. I think he's played like 30 minutes total. I was figuring that he might be a part of their rotation early. He has looked pretty bad in the limited minutes he has played. And overall, like this team is really being elevated mega by the return of Jalen Suggs. I think he changes the dynamics of that team. He changes their attitude. He changes their toughness. They've grinded out a ton of games close. They beat the New York Knicks the game that Jalen Brunson got injured, that was the game that they beat him. I think Jalen Suggs is the reason I was super high on this team. I'm a really big Jalen Suggs fan. This is so interesting because in his rookie year, I was hating on Jalen Suggs because of Scotty Suggs comparisons and stuff. But I'm a very big Jalen Suggs fan. This is why I have, going back to when we had Fred VanVleet on this roster, I have been advocating for the Raptors to trade for Jalen Suggs. I think he's a really good player. It's just, will he be healthy? How will he be healthy? Right? He's been really efficient this year. His defense is still exactly, I don't want to say exactly where it was, but he's still a dominant guard defender. He's so underrated. So again, and Goga Bataza giving them some good minutes. I think they'll once again tonight be without the other Wagner brother, Mo Wagner. So, it's a team that is on the mend, right? I think Wendell Carter is probably a guy that you probably want to move off of. I'm just happy I get to watch this team and I don't have to watch Cole Anthony anymore. That's been good. That's been great. Desmond Bane has looked awful. If I'm putting it lightly, he's looked awful. Apart from that game winner that he hit, I think he was 0 for 5 going into that from 3 going into that game winner, and then he hits that miracle game winner. And by the way, that game, that game they were supposed to lose. Like they were supposed to win the whole way through, and then they gave up the lead, and somehow they needed heroics to win it. Could that be the turnaround of the season, just like it was for the Raptors in Cleveland, where Jameson Battle comes off the bench and bails you out? Feel good. Everybody feels good. Everyone feels light. He has been trending in the right direction for what it's worth, but he started the season out super rough, man. He just hasn't looked efficient. Their offense hasn't been great with him. So I just think the chosen one said they gave up their future for Desmond Bain. Hey, man, a lot of us agreed at the time that it was a good idea. When you have a star like Paolo and you have a star like, Franz, you are pretty much all in. They showed you a lot in last year's playoffs. It's been a little uneven, but if they truly believe that they have two of the top 25 players in the league and they are basically holding down the second best defense in the world last year behind OKC, there was some real logic to trading for Desmond Bain. I can't judge it afterwards. Obviously, we're all going to judge it and say it didn't work out so far, but we don't know, man. This is a team I remember 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they went into Boston. It was like 2 years ago or 3 years ago. They went into Boston. They beat the crap out of the Clippers. I remember that game. Then they went into Boston, beat Boston 2 times, and they were just a different team. So I don't think that this is one of those things where you have to just assume the season is over for the Magic. They're 6-6. I still think they're going to be good as long as Suggs stays healthy. I think they'll be fine. Hopefully, the Paolo injury will help settle the offense a little bit, and then hopefully, when he comes back, he can do smarter things because he's a real I don't say this kindly. He's a real dumbass with the basketball sometimes. Number 8, the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been surprisingly good and also surprisingly bad. I really don't know how to gauge this team. They started out really hot. Ryan Rollins, Cole Anthony, Miles Turner has looked kind of abysmal, if I'm being honest. They have the 14th ranked offense, the 20th ranked defense, and a net rating of 17th. Um, have they looked good? Yeah, in spurts, they've looked amazing. They looked amazing when they were whooping the Raptors, right? But they lost Kevin Porter Jr. in the first game. 9 minutes he played. Uh, Geez, man, Ryan Rollins has been a total revelation. Like for what he's being paid, which is I believe $4 million a year for 3 years. What a get, right? He is outplaying a lot of guards, starting guards in the NBA this year, and I think his pick and roll synergy with Giannis, how they're using their bigs, the space that Miles Turner creates, even though Miles Turner has not been world beaters or good necessarily, just the threat of Miles Turner, the reputation of Miles Turner is opening up all sorts of pockets of space and Kyle Kuzma has been good. Like I know the box plus minus says, negative 2.4 or whatever, but the games that I've watched of him have been very good. Like Kyle Kuzma is playing much better basketball than he's played in years. Gary Trent Jr. continues to be a wild card for them. He started every single game so far. Bobby Portis as well. These are important parts of the offense in terms of spacing the floor, but they have to give a lot more defensively. Giannis is still a pretty good defender. He's not a great defender anymore. He's not a singular force defensively like Wemby. He's not a guy who can floor lift, a mediocre defense to like top 5 by himself. He can sustain a mediocre defense, but his teammates have to participate. So I still believe there's a chance they tear this all apart, trade Giannis, something of that sort, right? But yeah, I don't know. SP saying, do you think there is a Rudy Gay type of trade available? A ton of good lower end pieces for RJ. Sure, there are trades like that. You'd probably be looking at like teams like the Pelicans, but yeah. The Chicago Bulls, fool's gold, false start, or just missing a little bit of the Giddler. Josh Giddey started off really well. Nikola Vucevic started out really well. This team started out really well, 5-1, and since then they've lost a lot of games. They lost to Detroit, and it was not a close game. I watched that game, 113, 124, their last game. And overall, they are 18th in offensive rating, 19th in defensive rating, and 19th in net rating. This team should probably be a lot lower on this list, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to give them grace because I do believe there's a world in which Kobe White and Josh Giddey come back. Montez Buzzell starts playing a little bit better. So we saw so many flashes of him like really being dominant in preseason. I think there's a world in which they turn it around. I think Billy Donovan's a pretty okay coach. I don't think he's great. It's just a very uninspiring team. And ironically, they're 7th, which means they're back in the play. I couldn't let them into the playoffs. I didn't want to put them at 10th because it felt like being a hater because it would be completely dismissing their hot start. But if I'm being honest, this is definitely not a team that is trending in the right direction. And I'm curious. I'm very curious to see what Kobe White and Josh Giddey can do for them when they get back. But they're missing those guys. Guard play matters, man. And if I'm being honest, I think this is some of the best basketball that I've seen from Ayo Dosunmu. Patrick Williams, the numbers may not say it, but he's looked really competent. At least the games that I watched, he looked really good for them. Javon Carter's been really reasonable in the minutes that he has played. He's looked good. I definitely think Vucevic is, there was talk like through their win streak, is Nikola Vucevic the best center in the Eastern Conference, right? Now he's not, and all of the problems that persist with him and have persisted with him for the last 4 years still persist to this day. Like there are still problems, but he is a talented big. He does hit threes at a really, high rate in terms of like not necessarily efficiency, but he's relatively efficient. He's respected out there. He's a very skilled big. He's a reasonable passer. So overall, I think Vucevic, Giddy, this is a very mediocre team. The ceiling is not super high. I think Josh Giddy is exceeding the value of that contract, though. Now, uh, oh Lord, did you see that one dude on Player's Choice today compare Scotty Barnes to Nicholas Batum? Shout out to Nicholas Batum, man. Cool. Don't care. Okay. We don't mind the opinions of idiots, man. Like I feel like we just give too much oxygen in life. I think we give too much oxygen to the dumbest things we hear. And I think that the more we do that, the more people say the dumb things that they say, right? Like respectfully to, the individual who said it, who I will not name right here. I know he doesn't watch Scotty Barnes play basketball. I'm not talking about you. I know you did. You did say Scotty's better. But to the people who say that Scotty is on the same level as RJ or, is on the same level as Jeremy Grant, like tell me you haven't watched Scotty Barnes without telling me you haven't watched Scotty Barnes. The man literally said his career is like this. Scotty Barnes' career is nothing like that. It's up, down, up, down. There's a lot. So look, man, I learned something really wild about myself today. I prepare for these shows. I know it may not seem like it to some people, but I promise you, when I go on Player's Choice, my goal is not to just say the stupidest thing I can. My goal is to be thought provoking and interesting. So I'm not just going to say obvious things. Like when asked about the OKC Thunder, I'm not going to be like, the OKC Thunder are very good, right? Like that would be boring. So I understand there's an entertainment factor to it. But backing up my takes, when I know that the subject of the show will be the Memphis Grizzlies or the OKC Thunder, you better believe that I'm putting in 3 to 4 hours of work before the show, either in the morning with my morning coffee before the show, because the show's at 11. Sometimes I wake up at 7 o'clock to do the work, or the night before. So I'll go to sleep super late. Sometimes I'm really tired when I'm on the panel because I did the work, and I that's the best thing that's the only thing I can do when I go on the panel or even when I come up here is I just have to have done the work, right? If I'm going to do a Scotty Barnes film session, I have to have done the work. If I'm going to do a post game breakdown, I have to have done the work. So I look at it from that perspective and just say, I always thought that if you did the work and knew your shit and interviewed trainers, hit up people, I just felt like if you did your work that you would be a good analyst and you can go really far in this business. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think being likable is way more important for some people. I don't know I apologize if you can hear an alarm. My girlfriend's alarm just keeps going off for some reason right now. She's cooking, so yeah. So I don't know what it is. Like I sometimes say things that I think are pretty reasonable and fairly researched, but because of maybe the way I say them or my condescending attitude or my generally unlikable demeanor, they're scoffed at or ridiculed. But sometimes someone can say something about someone they haven't barely watched. They can just be like, Jeremy Grant is the next, Scottie Pippen, and people just laugh it off because they say it in a likable way. So yeah, that's kind of where it is. That's kind of where it is, right? So, you know, I'm not going to stop preparing because I believe in that stuff. I'm not going to stop researching, but I'm going to stop expecting that researching equals being viewed as credible or being liked or anything like that. And honestly, I don't tell you, if you're a 30 something year old person who's trying to be liked on the internet, you've already lost the plot. I'm not trying to be liked. I don't need to be liked. But I do think that today, more so than any other time in my life, I just realized, wow, you can just go and spew absolute nonsense about teams you don't watch, players you don't watch, concepts you don't understand. And people would just be like, that's funny. Cool. This is entertainment, right? So let's keep it rolling. The Philadelphia 76ers, they have the 6th rated offense, the 17th ranked defense. They've had a 13th ranked net rating. They've had a wonderful start to his career from VJ Edgecombe. I don't know what the numbers say on VJ, but my eye test says he has looked amazing for them. It's cooled off a little bit. Trended Watford, obviously, one of my favorite kind of role players from the Nets last year, a couple of years ago. Like I just thought he was so underrated, and I think players become underrated for a myriad of reasons. He's not a he's not a hype prospect. He has a little bit of discoloration or a pigmentation issue on his face. He's not a loud person. He doesn't draw a lot of attention to himself. He's a dirty work guy, but he's such a good basketball player. He's fundamentally so important to teams that want to win basketball games, and he has done a lot of that for them. VJ, of course, has cooled down. His shot has not been falling as much lately, but man, the start was so promising, and I don't think you need complete results from rookies. I really don't. I don't think you need you know 82 games from a rookie. I think what you need is like 18 games from a rookie. Give me 18. Uh, what take? Sorry, I got to scroll back, man. Pen, do you think Scotty would be a better second option than Murray if you put him on Denver? I've been arguing with someone saying he would be. No, I don't. I think he's a better player, but he can't replicate what Jamal Murray can do. His pull-up shooting is nowhere near that elite. Um, if you want my hot take, I think the Denver Nuggets would still be a really good team if you replaced Nikola Jokic with Scotty Barnes. Nowhere near as good as they are right now, but if you just plug Scotty into Jokic's spot or Aaron Gordon's spot they would still be a great team. If you actually, yeah, like, but not for Murray. Murray is a completely different set of skills. Scotty does not have those skills. So they'd be just a very different team. They'd be a lot better defensively. So maybe that's something that you can say. He's a way better defender than Jamal Murray, but he's not the shot creator that Jamal Murray is. He's not the pull-up demon that Jamal Murray is. And Jamal Murray been hooping this year. So shout outs to Jamal Murray. So no, I don't agree with your take. If we move along to Tyrese Maxey, I think Maxey has been amazing. I think honestly, legitimately, he's been the best point guard in the Eastern Conference this year. He's been better than Jalen Brunson. He's been better than LaMelo Ball. He's been way better than Trae Young. Tyrese Halliburton not playing. He's been better than Quickly. He's been better than all of them, man. He has been so good, so shifty, so good off the ball. Just he put on a clinic against the Toronto Raptors. Like he completely obliterated. He's so quick. He's so good at the basket. He is truly, truly like their best player right now. Joel Embiid has looked very good in the 6 games he's played, in the 140 minutes he's played, including that monster game he put up against the Raptors. He's looked good. If they can work him up the way the Clippers worked up Kawhi last year, if they can keep him healthy, they'll be a really good playoff team with him. Now, obviously, I have a bias here. I don't think Joel Embiid is built for the playoffs. I think he's going to break down. There's something going to go wrong with him, et cetera, et cetera. But like for real, like I genuinely think that he is a very, very underrated player, Tyrese Maxey, and I think he should probably be an All NBA player this year if they keep it up. Also, shout outs to my guy Kyle Lowry in his 3 minutes, 49 boxes minus. That is obviously a joke. It's not a joke, but like the stat is a joke when it's on small sample size. And we haven't seen a ton of Jared McCain this year as he works back from injury, but 3 games, 31 minutes in, hasn't looked right, hasn't looked great. Give him some time to work back. They've got a lot of young pieces on this team that I believe in. Adem Bona, their backup center, love him. Again, another player that was technically available for the Raptors, the type of big that you could really use, a hard screen setter, rim diver, that type of guy. Kelly Oubre has been solid. Quentin Grimes has been solid. Like I just think they have a lot of really good pieces, a lot of good depth, and the Raptors should know this. The Sixers team beat the shit out of us the last time on a back-to-back. So overall, I think the Raptors are better though, which is why I have the Toronto Raptors at number 5. And I promise it's not biased. Like I debated for a long time whether I put the Raptors 6th or 5th, but the Raptors are on a 6-1 game winning streak, 6-1 over the last 7. And a lot of good things are happening for the Raptors. Number 1, they are 9th in offensive rating. Oh, what a sight for sore eyes. We've been like 25th, 24th, 29th, 28th. Every time I check Basketball Reference, I want to take a drink. We've been so bad. Now, ball. Sandro Mamukelashvili is absolutely the most underrated player on this team. He's amazing. Amazing. Like truly, truly amazing. Like to the point where every lineup with Mamu is basically positive. He turned the game around last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I want to give Scotty a lot of credit for what he did last night. I want to give Jamal Shad a lot of credit. Man, if Sandro Mamukelashvili doesn't hit threes, you don't break that game back open. They were up. Like they were up. They were beating you. You were turning the ball over. You looked hapless defensively. You were giving up like easy drives. And I just think he broke their spirit. Like he broke their back a little bit. Like his quick decision making, his shooting, his spacing, just intelligence, man. Mamu is like a very insanely intelligent basketball player. And Darko loves him. Darko loves him. I could tell right away when Darko was talking about Sandro Mamukelashvili, this is exactly a Darko guy. I wouldn't be surprised if Darko pushed to get him in Toronto because he knew exactly this is the type of guy we need. The only complication for the Raptors right now is how do you resign him? Because he's on a 1-year deal, basically. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. Looking at the analytics for the Toronto Raptors, shout out to Jamison Battle, 73 minutes, 6.3 boxes minus, but also shout out to Scotty Barnes, who has now entered the sphere as one of the top 15 players in the league in terms of boxes minus, a stat that some people wish would just go away, but a stat that I think is very easily accessible to a lot of people. Sandro Mamukelashvili is third among the guys who actually play. Okay, not counting Garrett Temple's one glorious minute where he got a block. Mamu is third on this team in terms of that. And honestly, all of his net rating on-off data suggests that the Raptors are like 21 points per 100 possessions better with him on the court than off. He has so thoroughly outplayed Jakob Poeltl this year. And shout outs to Jakob Poeltl, who's getting back into form and really, was a physical presence last night, really did battle with Allen and Mobley and really shored up the back end. I'm not saying one makes the other redundant. They're completely different players. And in fact, in an ideal setting, they would actually play together really well. Unfortunately, right now, Mamu is playing out of position as a backup 5. Now, he is 6'10", but he is a low shoulder guy. He's not a big wingspan guy. He's not a big rim protector. Not having a rim protector at the 5 basically forces Colin Murray-Boyles and Scotty Barnes to effectively be centers as Mamu and, Jakob pretty much coast as power forwards. That's probably not the way to go. You need to replace this. You need to fix this. And I think the solution is probably moving Mamu to the 4, CMB to the 3, and having a stretch 5. A stretch 5 who can block some shots. Now, these guys don't grow on trees, but hey, I heard the Indiana Pacers have a couple guys like that. Speaking of, some fall off here, RJ Barrett, going from around 2 boxes minus to about 0.9 now. It's been trending in the wrong direction for a little bit here. Brandon Ingram has still not looked right. I mean, this is a guy who's comfortably like 2, 3-ish boxes minus for most of his career. 1.5 to 3 is a pretty expectable range for him to be in a spaced out offense like this. He just, missing a lot of shots, missing a ton of threes. Threes are not going in as much anymore. But on the flip side is Immanuel Quickley, who has completely turned around his season. He has gone from negative 3.8, 4.8 boxes minus to a positive 1.8. And I expect this to climb and climb and climb until he gets to 3. He has always been a positive analytics darling in New York. He was a plus minus darling. In fact, here's a fun fact. Immanuel Quickley, and this is not boxes minus, but Immanuel Quickley has the largest, highest plus minus in Knicks history. He is overwhelmingly good at winning his minutes, and it's because he does a lot of valuable things on the court, and more recently he's been actually doing those valuable things. So shout outs to Immanuel Quickley. He has been awesome. Ochai Agbaji, Grady Dick, and Jacoby Walter being at the bottom of this list should surprise absolutely nobody who has actually watched these guys play, but Grady has been turning it around recently in a major way, to the point where Grady he's been winning his minutes more aggressively. Now, Grady is weird because the eye test says he's a terrible defender, right? There's so many obvious holes. And I think it's partially because of how floppy he is defensively. Like he just has these like mannerisms and he just looks so helpless when he gets beat. I think it's just his body language. Sometimes when he gets beat, he looks a little bit frustrated or, he picks up the stupidest fouls. His mistakes are very loud is the best way to put it, right? But his effect is very quiet. And I think that's a good ingredient to be like a very underrated player. So Grady has been quietly, hitting over 39% of his threes. I think that was a stat before last night. Samson shared it. 39%. Damn, man. Like, you're hitting your threes for the first time in your career right now. That's what you came out of Kansas to do. That's what you won Gatorade National Player of the Year doing, right? Grady Dick was supposed to be a lights out shooter for the Raptors. And I think the most important thing for the Raptors right now is he's treated like a lights out shooter. He and Jameson Battle and possibly Manuel quickly have some of the best gravity. Brandon Ingram as well. Those four players draw so much attention. Sandro as well. So you have like five players who play regular minutes for you who draw mega attention. Then you have like four players who play for you that draw like average attention. And then you have like two players who are just left wide open all the time. And I feel like the Raptors have to find a way to mask their inefficiencies here because you're not going to not play Colin Murray Boyles because teams are not guarding him from three because he's showing a capability of taking them and making them at a decent clip. But at the same time, you hope this changes at some point, because he and Scotty are going to be really hard to play together. He and RJ are really hard to play together because none of them command like attention. And when players attract attention, other players can't sit in the gaps. Other players can't dig. Other players can't double as comfortably. The rotations are further away. Uh, I feel like if you give Scotty shooters and athletes and smart players, he will build you a top 10 offense. And yes, I do believe Scotty can be the architect of a top 10 offense. I think he could probably be the architect of the top 5 offense. And I think it's been interesting that over the last 7 games, where the Raptors are 6-1, Scotty has actually taken a little bit of a step back offensively to focus on defense. He's been averaging 2.7 blocks per game. To give you context, in the first 5 games of the season, where the Raptors were 1-4, Scotty Barnes was a positive 3.5 box plus minus. Over the last 7 games, he has been a positive 7.2, if I'm not mistaken, box plus minus. He has leveled up tremendously, and almost all of that value is actually going on the defensive end. Almost all of it. Like most of his value right now is coming from pushing the pace in transition, being a better screen setter, playing defense like an absolute dog, boxing out, getting on the glass. Y'all remember, like, I did not think Scotty started out the season well defensively. It looked really bad on the weekend on the backside. He was letting guys out rebound him, out muscle him, and I kept wondering, like, is it injuries? Is it knee? He just had to dial it up. So the last 4 or 5 games, he has really dialed it up, like mega dialed it up defensively, and he is showing his team the way. I hope that his teammates can join him because other than Colin Murray Boyles, there's not another overwhelmingly positive defender on this team. Jakob is good. Jamal Shed is good. Grady is objectively bad. RJ is bad. Ingram is average to below average. Like there's a lot of below average defenders. And the fact that Toronto Raptors right now, I am somewhat surprised that they managed to have a 15th defensive rating with how poorly they've played defense to start this season. They were 27th, 28th, 29th to start the season defensively. So as they dial back the pressure a little bit, maybe play a little bit more Jacoby Walter, even though he has looked really, really bad offensively. And clearly the Boston minus is telling you like he is negative 6.9. He has looked very bad. Ochai has looked bad, lost, shooting 9% from 3, 8% from 3. I apologize. Ochai Abaji missed his last 3. He's shooting 8% from 3 now. So a lot of this, I think if you're a Raptor fan, the takeaway for this season is really Colin Murray Boyles is a dude, man. Like Colin Murray Boyles is actually like a really good basketball player. And he has shown it in a multitude of different ways. He's shown incredible instincts defensively, offensively, as a playmaker, as a post hub. He has shown so much poise, toughness, maturity as a rookie. So there's so many positives there. I think you might have a couple of gems, right? Big Ox Media saying, how do you feel about Jose Alvarado? I like him. I think his gimmick, the Grand Theft Alvarado chasing guys in the backcourt thing it kind of overshadows that he's a pretty solid basketball player, but I don't think I would trade for him. We got Jamal Shed, bro. And Jamal is honestly blossoming into one of the best backup guards in the league. I love Jamal Shed. I think he has been aggressively positive in terms of setting up his teammates, hitting his shots, hitting his threes, taking the right shots, getting guys in positions to score, being patient with the offense, pushing in transition. He has just been such a key spark to some of the best stretches of Raptors basketball that we've played this year. He's got a lot of poise. He has a surprising amount of burst and athleticism and way to get to the rim. He has that little push shot floater in the middle of the paint. So I love everything I've seen from Jamal Shed so far this year. He's exceeding my wildest expectations. So he's been great. He's been really great. And I remember telling Jordan last year that I think Jamal Shed is going to stick around in the league for a very long time. And If y'all remember, to those who follow us on X, he was my wallpaper. He was my background image for an entire year. Love Jamal Shad, love the personality, love the leadership, the intangibles. Everything about Jamal Shad is like, it's primo shit, man. This is like what you win with. You win with guys like Jamal Shed. You win with guys like Sandro. You win with guys like Scotty. You win with guys like Jameson Battle. But I also believe you got a couple dogs in the G League right now in Jonathan Mobo and Chucky Hepburn. And I also believe that those guys are the guys you win with. So again, last year, nobody really thought about AJ Mitchell. This year, everybody knows about AJ Mitchell because J-Dub got injured and AJ Mitchell had to step in. Sometimes these guys, they just develop in the shade. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean they're not developing. That doesn't mean they're not putting in the work. And look, I've been very unkind to Elijah Martin so far because I didn't understand the pick and I really wanted Maxime Reynaud, who ended up going to the Sacramento Kings. But I'll be honest, Elijah Martin is turning around in the G League so far. So I really hope that he turns out good because Will Richard is looking good. Okay. And he's picked after him from the same damn school. So, I think Will Richard is actually starting for the Golden State Warriors right now. So yeah, obviously there's a little bit of an optic bias here. Elijah Martin is small. Elijah Martin is old. When you pick small and old in the draft, you better hit, and it better be an NBA ready type of guy right away who can provide positive value on that contract. He did sign a two-way with the Raptors, which is probably not the greatest sign, and probably means that with the 39th pick, the Raptors pretty much went to every single agent and said, is your guy interested in signing a two-way? And I think maybe that's put them out of a lot of guys that they may have wanted in that range. That maybe because they didn't want to offer this roster spot, they so desperately wanted to keep that 15th roster spot vacant in the event that, ultimately they make a trade or, they have to dump RJ for a 2-for-1 or something like that. They wanted to keep that roster spot free. They didn't want to offer guaranteed money. If you remember last year, Jamal Shed and Jonathan Mobo, both second-round picks, they got 3-year guarantee deals. So this draft pick, the second-round draft pick, was not going to get that. And I think that limited maybe their choice. And I think maybe they kind of went with the first guy who's willing to take that deal. So I think that's where we're at with Elijah Martin. But that none of that means that he can't blossom into something amazing. Because I'll remind you, AJ Mitchell was picked in the 30s. Jeremy Grant was picked in the 30s. Malcolm Brogdon was picked in the 30s. Draymond Green was picked in the 30s. Nikola Jokic was picked in the 40s. There's plenty of guys who blossom later. And Elijah Martin has looked a lot better in the G League than he did in Summer League. So at least it's going in the right direction. Some quick stats about the Toronto Raptors. Shoutouts to Keeks and Esfandre Barhaney. So the Raptors, after last night, are 4th in half-court offense. They were 5th going into last night, I believe. So they're 4th now. They're 6th in overall offense, 1st in transition frequency, 9th in transition efficiency. So they are number 1 in terms of fast break points in the league, a stat that has been said many times. Like, they run it down your throats. That's what they did to Cleveland. Now, obviously, I have some, caution about any transition team trying to, move forward in the playoffs. I don't know if they can do it. Honestly, I don't. I don't know if, you can sustain this type of pace in the playoffs. Teams slow down, teams scheme you. So at that point, you'll have to go to your half court, which ironically would be a good thing for the Raptors because their half court offense is more efficient than their transition offense, which has never been the case for the Raptors since Kawhi left. So as Brandon Ingram adjusts, I know that people can't really see the value sometimes in Ingram because he goes 5 for 15, but his 5 for 15 games are so impressively important for this team because he provides so much space, deflects so much attention, draws almost every night. He draws the best defender or the second best defender off of your guys, which allows Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes to some extent, Jakob Poeltl to roam a lot cleaner. So he's doing all sorts of positive things, and I think he's been the biggest reason why your half-court offense is where it is right now. He's amazing. Keek says, small sample size theater, but the Raptors have a plus 12.7 net rating and a 134.6 offensive rating in 94 minutes with Ingram, Barnes, and Barrett on the court together this month. Okay? It is negative 23.9 net, 101.3 offensive rating in their first 101 minutes, negative 7.1 net rating in 195 minutes total. So this is let me translate this. It's moving in the right direction. Your 3 highest paid, well, 3 of your 4 highest paid players are finally learning how to play basketball together. Now, can they learn how to play that basketball with Emmanuel Quickley? That remains to be seen. Can they learn how to play that basketball with Emmanuel Quickley plus Jakob Poeltl, or will they always need, a Grady or a Jamison Battle or, Sandro Mamukelashvili? Again, I've made many mentions of this. The Raptors' second unit has bailed them out of almost every single game this year. Moving on very quickly, let's go through this. Number 4, the Miami Heat. I believe they play tonight against the New York Knicks, who are obviously a lot higher on this list than they are. They are one of the fastest teams in the league. Shout out to Davion Mitchell. They have not had Tyler Hero this year, but Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell have been a revelation for them. And Jaime Jaquez, man. Jaime Jaquez has been so good, right? Just scoring 30 every now and again. Khalil Ware has been average, in my opinion. She's been very, tepid, mediocre, not nearly at the level that he was at last year. Andrew Wiggins he's been hooping, man. Andrew Wiggins been hooping. Jovic has been, mixed and decent, but they're doing it by committee, man. This is a team that is super well coached. They're very disciplined, and they're doing a lot of great things. I wonder what this will look like when Tyler Hero comes back. I wonder if they are a team that wants to make a trade because they feel like they have the types of pieces right now to go out and get, something of consequence that can settle this roster out. And maybe, Tyler Hero plus one of these guys or 2 of these guys is exactly what you need to get a star in Miami. Or maybe you believe that Tyler Hero and Norman Powell can work long term. I have my confusions about that. I think defensively it will be hard. But, shout out to Davion Mitchell. He really sets the tone for that team defensively. He's playing a ton of minutes for them so far this season. He has played 365 minutes for them already, which, if I'm not mistaken, leads all Miami Heat players. All. He's played the most minutes, and the Raptors traded him for a late Lakers second this year. We got nothing back for Davion Mitchell. We got nothing back for Dennis Schroeder, and they are both starting point guards in the NBA right now. Unbelievable, right? Like, I was perfectly happy to let both of them go, but I'm a little bit shocked that we weren't able to get a little bit more for it. So anyways, number 3, the team that the Raptors have beat twice already at home, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, health, man, health. I'm not trying to be, one of those guys who's prisoner of the moment. I still believe the Cleveland Cavaliers are a really good basketball team. Donovan Mitchell been absolutely hooping out of his mind. Even last night, I feel like the refs gifted him so many calls last night, but overall, he's been good. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Jared Allen had a brilliant game the game before the game the Raptors played them, where I think he had 30 points, 11 rebounds. He really carried them to a win there. This is a tough team. This is a deep team, but this is a team on the mend. Obviously, you're not going to play with Lonzo Ball. You're not going to have Darius Garland. I don't mean to echo the words of the man who shall not be renamed, but when he said that if you have no Lonzo Ball, you lose the game, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's not like Lonzo Ball has been world beaters this year, but he has been a competent level point guard. He is a stabilizing force. He's an organizer of offense. And I'll be honest, like, a lot of what the Cavs were missing last night was good point guard play. It was someone to get them into their offense. There was a lot of random Mitchell ball going on last night, and I feel like he was a really big part of, missing him was a big part of that. Shout out to Jalen Tyson. Again, I think he was the 30th pick in last year's draft. And he has just been hitting lights out. He's shooting 46% from 3. He's clearly a great shooter. Like, I've been watching him since college. He's a great shooter, but I didn't know how it would translate to the NBA. This is a team that lost Ty Jerome and replaced him with Lonzo Ball, and I am perfectly fine with that exchange. I think long-term it will help them. And, this is a team that's also having to play some guys that they don't probably expect to play. They probably cannot believe that they have 47 minutes played already from Luke Travers. They cannot probably believe that Tyrese Proctor has already played 138 minutes this season. I mean, the season's not that old. These guys probably weren't expecting them to play 138 minutes all season. But, you drafted some older guys. Tyrese Proctor is like a 3-year guy, if I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4-year college guy. So maybe a 5-year guy. Shit. Tyrese Proctor has been around forever. So my point is, you draft these guys so that they can step into these roles, but obviously they are not perfect. They are not great basketball players right now. So at this point, I think the Cleveland Cavaliers, I need to see them healthy. But I don't like what I've seen from them so far. They do not look like the best team in the East. As I said, the team that I would follow in the East and would root for in the East, if it were not for my beloved Toronto Raptors, is the Detroit Pistons. In the league, they're the number 2 defense. They're the 17th ranked offense and 6th in terms of net rating, which gives you an idea of just how overwhelmingly positive their defense has been. They are a grinded out team. They're a team that wins ugly, wins, tough, close games. Paul Reed, shout outs to Paul Reed, 116 minutes, 6.6 plus plus minus. That is totally small sample size, but nevertheless, he's been hooping. And in the game that almost nobody played, that nobody expected them to win, they won that game precisely because of Paul Reed, going nuts. Jalen Duren totally leveled up. Isaiah Stewart totally leveled up. Kobe Jones has like a no impact on this season because he's played 7 minutes. But Asar Thompson, sorry, I was just reading down the numbers here, has been awesome. Awesome. Really great to see him, actually be healthy. Like the blood clot situation was really scary, but I said it last year. I'll say it again this year. Asar Thompson is going to be a good, really great basketball player in this league. I don't know about all-star. I don't know about any of that stuff, but he's going to make many all defensive teams. I think he's a better defender than his brother. I think he is a lockdown, tenacious, attentive, committed, high motor defender who can pretty much shut down every matchup that he's put on. It would not surprise me if he turns into the best wing defender in the NBA. He is that good. Shout out to Dennis Jenkins. Like, I had not heard of Dennis Jenkins once prior to last week. And then he just comes out and he is fucking amazing, right? So the league and the world is very talented, and Ron Holland, despite the analytics, I still think he's been very, very solid for them. I think they need a lot more from Tobias Harris if they're going to be good. Tobias was amazing last year, defensively and offensively. This year, he hasn't been so much. I think they're going to need a lot more from Duncan Robinson, especially if he's going to continue to start. I think those are the two players that are sort of holding them back right now. Karis LeVert has been perfectly fine as, a guy coming off the bench, settling the offense, being the secondary playmaker, creator, whatever. But I think they need a little bit more shot making and efficiency from those guys. But overall, Duncan Robinson has been really efficient. Tobias Harris has not. So Duncan obviously is there to shoot. He is there to provide space and shoot and make smart plays, and he is doing that. You're not going to expect him to be a great defensive player, but that's why you have the great defense around him. Like everything can help him. So he's spacing the court for Cade, giving Cade wider angles to the rim, giving Asar, Ron Holland wider angles to the rim, and eventually he'll give Jaden Ivey larger angles to the rim. This is a team with a very bright future. They are very young. Their best players are pretty much all under 25. This is a rising power in the Eastern Conference, and it is shocking that they are already 10-2. Like, I did not expect them to come out strong. I did not expect them to have a good year. I was very much on the fence that maybe they don't even make the playoffs this year because I thought Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr., the loss would hurt them a lot, but it really hasn't slowed them down at all. In fact, they're better than last year just defensively, and the growth of their young players and Cade taking care of the basketball. It's just really good. Number one team in the East. I'll probably regret this a couple weeks from now, but that is the New York Knicks. They are fifth. They are fifth in terms of net rating. They are 13th in terms of defense, third in terms of offense. And obviously, a team like this, being coached by Mike Brown, moving on from Tibbs, their focus was, they say Mike Brown's more of a defensive coach, but now back to back, stops, he has basically been like an offensive guy. And I was curious how much the offense was really going to move. Jalen Brunson is a very Helio guy, and he still commands a lot of possessions, a lot of touch, but their offense has definitely changed. And I think for the better. OG Anunoby is probably having one of his best years of his career so far. He's scoring better. He's looked a lot more efficient. He still can't dribble or create his own shot much better than he used to be able to. So your memory is not fading. Mikal Bridges has been really good this year. Josh Hart off the bench has been positive-ish, like not as positive as he was last year. Like he's taken a step back, but he's been okay. Deuce McBride, really one of the best backup guards in the league. My boy, Gershon Yabusele has not really been able to crack the rotation in any meaningful way. He's constantly in the doghouse. I don't get it, man. I like Gershon Yabusele a lot. I really do. I was saying all offseason the Raptors need to go get him, and he has looked pretty bad for them so far. Karl-Anthony Towns has been the biggest disappointment. And honestly, if Karl-Anthony Towns can pick it up and get back to where he was last year, which was right around 6 blocks plus minus, top 20 player in the league, top 15 player in the league for some people, if he can get back to that with the addition of a healthy Mitchell Robinson, because Mitchell Robinson has been in and out of the lineup, they've been so much better with Mitch, in my opinion, from when I watched them with Mitchell Robinson. If Mitchell Robinson's in the lineup, I'm like, they're winning that game. So now they'll be without Jalen Brunson. We'll see, who steps into that role. They've been getting some pretty competent guard play from Jordan Clarkson. They obviously lost Malcolm Brogdon right to start the season because he retired instead of playing with this team. But we'll see where this team goes. So that's my Eastern Conference, power rankings. If you're late to the show, I had the Raptors ranked fifth. I think that's about as high as they can go in the Raptors. I think there's still some major problems. They still haven't beat a really good team, unless you count the Cleveland Cavaliers yesterday, which is the best team they've really beat or faced. So I think that's where I'm at. Shout outs to you guys. Thank you. Hour and 24 minutes. I really do hope that these accounts, um, I hope that was the real Mars Talk Sports, and I hope that was the real Ox. The reason I say I hope it was the real you guys is because, as you guys, if you're the real you guys, know sometimes people make fake accounts and they look just like real accounts. And I remember one time somebody made a fake account of me and went on playback and said some horrible things. So you guys aren't talking nonsense. So I assume it's you, but I also, thanks. Elliot Roberts saying the best Raptors slash basketball analyst on the internet! Exclamation marks. You make us all more informed just watching you. Shout out Pensare Basketball. I do my best, man. I do my best, and I will continue to do my best. And I hope that I can level up and continue to be researched, informed, and honest. I have no interest in being an entertainer, man. Yeah. Slitherman saying, no, that's the real Mars. That is good. The only way to really confirm whether somebody is real or not, and honestly, this is a little note to our moderators. If you do see somebody, Mars, swipe out those guys from the panel, I think some of our moderators watch the panel. If you could just do a right click, check channel, view channel, you'll see that if it's a real channel, when it was made, whatever. That's what I always do whenever I see somebody that I know in the chat that isn't usually in our chat. I usually just look at that. But hey, man, shout outs to all of you who tuned in to our first of 8 Eastern Conference power rankings. We shall see how this prospers and goes forward. My hope, my prayer is that by the time we do power rankings 2.0, the Raptors have risen up this list, but I will not hold my breath. They have a pretty easy schedule coming up, so I won't take these wins as gospel. If the Raptors suddenly move up to 3rd or 4th in the Eastern Conference, that doesn't mean they're the 3rd or 4th best team. The Raptors do have a pretty easy schedule coming up, though, but that's largely because they had a really hard schedule to start the season, so maybe the Raptors deserve as much credit or maybe a little bit more credit than I'm giving them. Zigsaw Puzzle saying, are you on playback tonight? Yes, I am, sir. Yes, I am. So it is currently 7:16. I am screwed because this live was supposed to happen at 5. I pushed it to 5:45. It was supposed to be a 30-minute live. It turned into an hour and 30-minute live. And because I've rambled on so long, now I'm not sure how to do the Scotty Barnes breakdown and go to the gym. I got to go to the gym. So let me see what I can do. I might have to postpone that Scotty live till after the playback stream. So that might be what I do. So go back in time and tell the person, let me see what I can do. I'll do my best. To go to the gym real quick, and yeah, game is in 2 hours. That is fair. The game is at 9:30. So if I do that Scotty live at 8:30, it's just I had to do a little bit of film breakdown for it to like show what he can do better and stuff. I had to like look at all his misses from yesterday and just kind of go through it. So let me just see if I have the time. If I don't have the time, probably gonna have to postpone it till after the playback stream. So that'll be like closer to midnight. So let me see what I can do. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace. And please like the video on your way out. Appreciate you.